Hey everybody, it's Stephanie. It's Tuesday, November 14th. So, the past couple of days are officially the days of my starting on my new job title with my company. What can I say? I do work for Lowe's, and I am the pro sales specialist at the Pro Desk. It's new, it's different. You see, I have just over 30 years of customer service under my belt. And I also worked for the Home Depot for 14 years, and I've been with Lowe's now for almost 4 years. All this time that I've been with these two companies, I have always been a plumbing specialist with the Home Depot and also Lowe's. I came into learning about plumbing by the ways of working with Culligan Water Filtration Company, which is owned by US Filter. And I started with them when I lived in Palm Beach with my second ex. So what did I do for Culligan? I was a field installer. I had my own company truck where I would carry my installations for the day. Usually 2 installations and maybe a couple of water filter changes. So I would go out to the customer's home. I would locate the POE, which stands for point of entry. That's where the water comes from the street through the meter and into your house. I would locate that. I would shut off their water, and I would go ahead and start installing water softeners, iron filters, sediment filters, and so forth. I learned all that through working with Culligan. Other than that, I had no plumbing skills. So that's the experience that I had that I took into the Home Depot. And that's where I continued my plumbing job as a plumbing salesperson. I knew all the fittings, I knew different kind of pipes. I knew how to tie in a plumbing or a drain, either for a pump or whatever they needed. Pool pump, house pump, well pump, you name it. Too many pumps there. So anyways, I enjoyed doing it because back then it was something new for me. Well, I did that for 14 years with the Home Depot. 2018 was my last year with the Home Depot. I quit there during the Christmas of 2018 after I was verbally assaulted, borderline physically assaulted by a customer. And you just picture yourself working during the holidays, shorthanded, covering two departments by yourself. And the managers are nowhere to be found. That's the day I say I quit. Took off my orange apron, walked into the break room, and I said, I've had enough. So at that time, when I quit the Home Depot, I was working part-time with the public supermarket. I always had 2 jobs. I liked making money, okay? My parents or my family were not born with a silver spoon in their mouths. You know what my parents did back in Portugal where I lived? This is what my father used to tell me. You know what I did when I was young and I had to work? I used to make Kango hats. He said, I used to make Kango hats and sell them. That's how I made my living. And I also made wooden scooters with metal wheels. My parents used to live in a small little village, and most people that were there were poor. And the people that were well off in the village, they had stores, they had farms, or they worked in a farm, or they did construction. Some of them were fishermen. My father worked for himself. So he took his experience as a hat maker, or a Kango hat maker, and when he came to this country back in 1969, him and my mother worked in a clothing manufacturing company. And my mother was a top stitcher, and my father was a top stitcher. My mother was a seamstress. And after a few years, I guess they thought that my father had a gift of making stuff with his hands. So they saw how meticulous he was as a top stitcher. I think he was the only man in the whole company that was a stitcher. All other men were pressers, or what they called buck pressers, where they would flat iron the sleeves or the breast of the jacket, you know. So I did that with my father for a little while after I got out of high school, and I tell you, I hated it. I used to go to work all nice, and by the time I come home, my new clothes would be full of lint. I hated working there. I hated it. The bosses that used to work there, along with my father, I don't know, my father was probably the friendliest guy out of the whole plant because he was a flirt. He liked flirting with a woman. And because of this, he ended up knocking up a woman that had a little girl. Hence, I have a half-sister now. Not now, but way back then. So that's how I came about having a half-sister, because my father was a flirt, liked playing around, and that's what happened. So anyways, I worked there for a little while, but while I worked there, I was busy looking for other jobs. So before I get too deep into the story, I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers and to those people visiting my channel for the first time. If you hear something that resonates with you, I don't know if this is going to resonate with you, but you never know who's watching my channel. Hit that subscribe key and please share. I appreciate it very much. I'll be right back with more.
I'm not suggesting anything so complicated.
So as I was saying, I think I worked there with my father for about 2 years, and I really couldn't take it anymore. So I started looking for another form of work. And I was making $3.15 an hour, minimum wage. And they had a system in the textile industry and manufacturing industry called piecework or time work or something like that. They had a timesheet where we had a conveyor belt that came down the line, and my job was to be a butt presser. It's a steam presser. You've seen it in the Three Stooges, right? They're pressing something. There's this big pressing head with a platform, and it's plumbed through steam. And this thing will come down with some form of hydraulic and springs, and you would hit the lever and a shot of steam would come through, and it would flatten out these parts of a jacket or pants or something like that. So the company I worked for, they supplied JCPenney, Sears and Roebuck. You don't hear about these people anymore. Sears and Roebuck with young men's jackets and suits. That's what we did there. So I hated the job, and I made friends with this other guy who said to me, "We shouldn't work here. I heard that there's better pay in the Cape Cod." So me and him drove up to Cape Cod, and we applied for another manufacturing job in a company that made plastic grocery bags for supermarkets, retail outlets, and stores that sold, that supplied customers with plastic bags to put their stuff in, right? So that's what I did. I did that for about 5 months, and then during the 5 months I was there, I heard that that company was going to shut down in the summer of, I don't know, 1983 or something like that, or 1986, I believe. So when I caught wind that the company was shutting down, I went to a company in my city where I lived, and now this company was a huge company, and they bought raw steel. It was a steel company, and they bought raw steel, which they would buy, and they would have all kinds of steel, from stainless, Inconel, Monel, stainless steel, nickel, copper, zirconium, brass. And I worked in a steel mill, and I would supply the guys with the steel. I would go out to the floor, get on my fork truck. I was a fork truck operator, but my job was, I had an indirect job. That was a title, indirect. That means I could work with any department there that was in the cold rolling steel in a steel mill and supply them with work. We had an area where all these rolls of steel were, and they were big rolls, you know. We had different size trucks to handle different size weight of steel that were rolled up, tight rolled. Like they look like big spools of sheet steel all rolled up. Some were finished, some were raw. They came from the steel company from Allegheny, Pennsylvania, or China, or whatever. And I would get these spool of steel, put them on a machine that would wind them on a block or a round object that looked like a drum, but it was actually a solid steel piece, and there were motors on both sides, and you would pull the strip through, tie it into these blocks, and then you would round it up, prepping them to go inside of the steel mill. And the steel mill, according to their job sheet and specifications from the customer, because what we were doing was they would break the steel down from like a heavy gauge, 50 gauge or something like that. 50, that's like thick. That's over a 1/4 inch thick steel, and it's under a high tension, and it's very dangerous. We had to wear a hard hat, we had to wear gloves, and I would help them, you know, tying this onto the blocks. I would get all the work ready for them, lined up for them, and they would follow a schedule. And then when these steel would leave the steel mill, they would go into the furnace department where they would be annealed and be wormed or whatever. So if a steel goes in a steel mill, it would get it down to a specific gauge of the customer's requirements. And the whole steel will go through a process from raw to a finished product. But we weren't turning the metal into anything. We were just getting it to a specific thickness range, and they would anneal and worm it by going through chemicals in this big furnace that's over a couple 100 feet long. And when it comes out, the steel is no longer, it's going to be nice and flat. It's not going to have any waves. And then it goes to a slitting department where it gets cut up to specifications of the customer. But it would remain in a spool-like appearance, but it might be cut in half still in a spool. You know, this is over 1,000 feet in length. And it would get packaged and sent to the customer. Some of the customers were General Motors, General Electric. Some were Rolls-Royce, right? Some were General Motors. They would make head gaskets with them. Imagine a head gasket. A head gasket would have to be extremely flat, right? Well, yeah. And it has to be a certain temper, a certain tolerance to withstand the high temperature of the engine as the hot exhaust gases are going through from the compression of the exhaust, going through the manifold, out the exhaust pipe, through the heads and everything. So yeah, so when we would get orders from the aviation industry, they were used for honeycombs that would insulate the engine in its bay, the turbo engines or turbine engines. Some of our customers were the airline industry or the aviation industry. Pratt & Whitney was one of our customers, and they made jet engines or turboprop engines, whatever they needed. So the list went on. It went from backboards for computers, you name it. That job was a job that I made the most money. I would come home every single week with $70,000. At the end of the year, I was grossing about $70,000 a year. Back in 1987, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. A lot of $70,000 a year. I was young. I was in my early 20s, and I was making 3 times more than my father was. Yeah. So I was there for 14 years, and then after my first divorce, I left, and I got my own place, and I met someone else, and I got married for the next 5 years, which I went through another divorce, and I've been single ever since. So anyways, I never got back into manufacturing after I left those jobs in Massachusetts. There isn't a whole lot of manufacturing jobs in Florida. There are, but they're very little. I even tried getting hired by one of our customers here, Pratt Whitney is located in West Palm Beach. We have another customer called Precious Plate. They're also in West Palm Beach. I went there for an interview in 2001, but you never guess what happened. When I was sitting in the lobby in September 11, 2001, as I sat in the lobby getting drug tested to be hired to work for one of our customers where I worked at in Massachusetts, making 70 grand a year, I came back out after my drug test. I went into the lobby and I witnessed everybody staring at the monitor screen. Their mouths was open, their eyes were watery, and they were holding one another and they were screaming. They were witnessing, supposedly, airlines flying into the Twin Towers. That's where I was in September 11, 2001. That's where I was. I was being drug tested for a potential good job, and I ended up not getting a job because of what happened. Because of what happened, I didn't get that job. And that week, I was flying a lot because I had decided that I was going to move to Florida, and I was dating somebody from Florida. So I was flying back and forth a bit, and so was she. And we decided to live together. So that week when I flew back down there for the last time to Florida to move here, I was getting checked out. And yeah, so that's where I was. So fast forward, ever since that, I've never really did any manufacturing jobs. I've done jobs with security services, Rack and Hut security. I've done jobs working for construction companies, prepping building material things to be brought out to the construction site. I did a lot of retail. So most of the work, 90% of the work that I've done while I was in Florida, or 95%, is retail. I was a lab tech at Lens Crafters making lenses for glasses. I can get your glasses out in less than an hour with Lens Crafters. Yeah. And that's about the time I began working for Culligan. That's where I started getting my plumbing experience. So during my second marriage later on, me and my ex decided to move back to Massachusetts so I could be closer to my son. And about 6 to 8 months later, my ex-wife, decided to want to get a divorce because it wasn't working out. So she moved out, got together with her family again in Virginia for a few months, and then she ended up moving to Las Vegas to live close to her twin sister. But she had somebody lined up already, and then she got married again, and today she's living in California. And I am still in Florida, except I don't live in the East Coast, I live in the West Coast. I lived in the West Coast for 23 years, and just as you know, less than a month ago, I moved here. I bought a home here, and I'm still working retail. So this is the first time in 17 years that I broke away from my plumbing job. Okay, I'm working with Lowe's. I'm not gonna hide it, I work with Lowe's, okay? And I love the town where I live. I don't live in the city anymore. I love this little town. My home is situated and tucked away from the main road. It's tucked away in a peaceful little cul-de-sac, which I love. I love it very, very much. This is where I will die. Sounds morbid? I'm sorry, but this is where I will die. This is where I will retire. Okay? I will live in my home right here that I love. And work is going good, okay? Like I said in the beginning, I am the pro sales specialist at the Pro Desk. So my job is working with contractors, trying to help them out with their business, show them ways how they can save money, improve their delivery if they need delivery, getting them familiar with all the benefits of getting a Lowe's Pro card or consumer card or business credit card, or even a card that you could deposit your money into from your debit card or whatever you have, and check out and appreciate all the benefits that we have to offer. So that's what I do. I do strictly sales with customers, DIYers, and also licensed contractors. And I'm learning a lot. There's a lot to learn. And today, I was just given my own account where I can go into with the software and check out my numbers, check out my sales, check out my customers. I could send my customers emails, texts through this software, and I can do follow-ups. I could stage what they need for fulfillment and have their stuff sent to them, or they can pick it up. And I try to get more credit cards into my department to grow my account. Yeah, I like it. There's a lot to learn, and I'm learning a lot. I work with people who do similar work that I do, and it's different. It's really different. So yeah, the best thing about this job is, because before I transferred here, I was afraid that I wasn't going to work a steady shift, because the past 17 years, I was always on one shift, okay? And that opened up possibilities to earn a little extra money when I did that, because I knew what time I was leaving. So the past 4 years with Lowe's, I have been working the day shift. I was going in at 5:30, logging in at 6 a.m., and I was out of there by 3. On this job, I can stay up and watch TV if I can't sleep. I could be making videos like right now, not have time to publish them. I don't have to be at work until 8 o'clock. So this is a job now that I'm starting, the only job I've had that I start at 8 a.m. and I'm out of there by 5. So it's like 9 to 5 or 8 to 4. It's like that. It's a regular job Monday to Friday. That means I have every weekend off. And I love it because I can plan my life around something that I want to do, or if I make new friends, I can get together with them and do things. So I just love it. I love it. And it pays me really well. And I like it. This is the most paying job I've had in a retail environment. Okay? The only time I've made more money than this was when I lived in Massachusetts and I was in the steel industry, like I just described to you. I'm right below that, and I love this. The bonuses are good, from what, the guys and the girls and the ladies I work with tell me, you know, and I can't complain. I can't complain. I want to go into this job with a new attitude and be the best I can and set goals for myself so I can show them that I'm there to bring up my department and help our company be the best that it can be in my district. Yeah. I think doing the same job for 17 years was really getting under my skin. I was doing the same thing on the floor and down stocking and pulling out products and taking more abuse from customers, and it was monotonous. It was monotonous. This job is more challenging. It's more challenging. I have more responsibilities. So yeah, I like it. So I hope I'm not boring you guys. I hope you guys can resonate with this. I've discussed my family life, what my parents did, and I've taken you through the different stages of my life and different times with different jobs, and I've done something different. But right now, as I was telling a coworker, I'll stay in this job until I retire. And then when I do retire, I'll probably still work a few hours a week. Not because I have to, because I want to. I'll retire and I'll still have a mortgage in this place. I'm never going to pay it off. But what the hell? I think when people retire and just sit back and do nothing and watch TV, stay home and get fat, no pun intended to anybody, I think the health declines. When you're always moving, when you always have something to look forward to, whenever you have goals, continuing goals, and always striving to achieve, your mind is always busy. There's no negativity there, but challenges and goal setting and accomplishments. And your mind is healthy, your body's healthy. When your day's off, you do something physical. And that's how I'm seeing all these months coming, and my future summers, if I'm still healthy and strong. Yeah, so, all right. So anyways, I've said enough. I don't want to go over 20 minutes. I'm already over 20 minutes here. And I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll be talking to you guys this week.